It's a bit unfortunate that Ghost of Yotei had to release in the same year as Assassin's Creed Shadows, because we now have two open world games about young Japanese women seeking revenge for their family's murder that have been released in the span of a few months. But here's the thing, apart from a small group of dedicated gamers, it's unlikely that a large section of the gaming audience will play both these games in the same year. However, as someone who did play Assassin's Creed Shadows earlier this year, I'll admit that my experience may not offer an accurate review of this game. I found myself going through a lot of the story thinking, not this again. Of course, if you put aside the story and the basic gameplay loop of using stealth or violence to hunt down your targets, Ghost of Yotei does have a lot of different gameplay elements that make it much better than AC Shadows. That's what I'll be focusing more on in this review. There may be fewer clips of the combat or stealth, and more footage of the smaller elements that make this game feel fresh. As for my usual summary, well, if you're not burnt out on playing open world games, I'd say this is still a very enjoyable experience. The visual presentation and the technical performance, especially the lightning fast load times, really make this game shine. If I had to give a recommendation between picking up either AC Shadows or Ghost of Yotei right now, I would undoubtedly choose Ghost of Yotei, even though I had a lot of good things to say about Shadows. For more details, let's dive into the review. There will be spoilers ahead. First, let's quickly get the story out of the way. It's presented really well, no doubt, but we've seen it before. It's a revenge drama set in early 17th century Japan. You play as Atsu. A group of criminals known as the Yotei Six have murdered your family in front of your eyes and left you to die after destroying your family home. Somehow you survive, and after traveling and training across the country for 16 years, you now return to your homeland, Ezo, seeking revenge on the Yotei Six. Since you can't do it alone, you travel across different regions, finding allies and helping them so that they can then help you take down the region's boss, who is one of the Yotei Six. And then you all team up to take down the final boss, the end. Hardly surprising, right? Putting it like that, the story may sound a bit bland, and to an extent it is. And I guess the writers at Sucker Punch knew that too. So they try to make it a bit more interesting in a few ways. First, the story doesn't waste any time getting you into the game. There's no 1 hour long setup to tell you what's happening. The opening cutscene gives you enough context in the first 5 minutes, and in the next 10 minutes, you're already hunting down your first target. I found that to be a bit refreshing for sure. Second, you're given a choice as a player to unlock more of the past or to simply ignore it and move on with the story. This is done through a neat feature of reliving past memories at your family home. These small story snippets won't unlock until you choose to trigger them. So, if you want to spend that 1 hour or so learning what exactly happened in the lead up to that fateful night, you can find that out at your own pace. Finally, the most important pieces of the story are spread out across the different regions so that when you do come across the predictable flashbacks, you're at least taking small bites at the story after spending a few hours actually playing the game. Put together, I found this to be a good compromise for narrating a predictable story while still making it interesting. There are an impressive number of main characters who each have their own role to play, and they are just as interesting to talk to in general. There are, of course, a few twists thrown in here and there, but towards the end, it again becomes quite predictable, leaving the last twist to feel a bit bland. Again, All of this will probably feel different to someone who hasn't already played AC Shadows earlier this year, but I'm just sharing my experience.
Looking for Hyundai. Show me what you've got!
You're too confident. On your mercy!
Now let's talk about how this game feels different from AC Shadows and other open world games in general. And for this, it improves upon the small things that the first game in the franchise, Ghost of Tsushima, introduced 5 years ago. The game tries its best to avoid throwing dozens of map markers at you at the beginning. You're given an empty map to start with, and even if you travel across it right away, you may not immediately find things to fill it up with because you need to talk to people who will tell you where certain markers are. As much as possible, you're encouraged to discover things on your own. Let's say you accepted a bounty at a safe house. You're given a general location of the bounty target, but not an exact marker. So you start riding in that general direction. Then a few seconds later, you see some other NPC on the road, either asking for help or seeking a fight. Engaging with this NPC usually gives you more information, either about your next target or some side activity. This is how your first few hours in the game go by, and it gets you more immersed in the world. That said, you eventually start getting treasure maps, which will directly tell you where to find certain points of interest that you need to get skill points and increase your stats. It's a fine balance between not making the experience feel too video gamey and actually making it feel like a video game. The combat feels pretty standard, which is why I'm not focusing on that too much. It's still a good system featuring multiple melee and ranged weapons. There's some stealth included, but the game itself prompts you to go loud by initiating standoffs with
Hurry up!
enemies, so most of the time, stealth feels just like a waste of
Prepare
time.
to die.
There are quite a few side activities to engage in, and all of them are designed around making you feel culturally immersed. From cutting down bamboo to praying at altars, relaxing in hot springs, these are things we've seen in other games set in Japan, and yet seeing all these presented in stunning high fidelity makes them feel like a new experience. One new side activity which can be a hit or miss for most players is the Zeni Hajiki minigame. If you choose the right accessibility settings and get good at the game, you can win every single time without even letting your opponent have a turn. Apart from the main story where you hunt the Yotei 6, there are different side missions that you can keep track of using a card based system on the map, which is a neat idea. You can help the people of Ezo with their troubles, hunt down bounties, chase legendary dueling masters, and just explore the map at your own pace, discovering what else the game has to offer. Sucker Punch has really stepped up their game with both the visuals and performance. Let's talk about visuals first. This game looks stunning all the time. This is one of those titles where if someone is passing by when you're watching a cutscene, they are likely to ask, "What movie is this?" Ghost of Tsushima really set the visual tone in 2020, and Yotei iterates on that to make it seem even better. The different biomes predictably have different visual changes, but they all feel authentic and not as if they were included just for the sake of having different biomes. You get to fully immerse yourself into the world design when you're playing your shamisen, which is a meditative experience on its own. Speaking of performance, the game runs just fine on a base PS5, and I imagine the PS5 Pro can squeeze out a few more stable frames because I did notice some drops occasionally. But the highlight of the performance is the game's insanely fast load times. To begin with, if you close the game, switch off your console, and then boot it up again the next day, you are back where you left off in less than 10 seconds. It's still not as fast as Xbox's quick resume feature, which puts you back into the game in just a second, but this is still much faster compared to what we usually have to deal with for PS5 games. And within the game, fast travel works instantaneously. I
No
think
one's been
this
here in a
tech is
while.
something that is shared between Sony's
Probably
first
isn't
party
rested.
studios or something, because Insomniac did a similar thing with Spider Man 2, and here it feels like an improved version of that. Let me show this in action. Choosing a fast travel marker, and that's it.
I'm a forager.
Whether you're hunting down the people who killed your family, or you're just enjoying a quiet moment in the countryside, Coast of Yotei is a gorgeous open world game that invites you to explore everything that it has to offer. Seeing how we're having to wait longer and longer between these big Sony first party titles, it's a no brainer to pick this one up whenever the time is right and just soak it all in at your own pace because who knows how long we'll need to wait for the next Sucker Punch adventure. Thanks for watching.
We've been gone so long. Any ideas, boy? Where do we find the rest of the Yotei 6?